introduction. So welcome everybody to IWRA's 50th anniversary interview series. And today I'm very pleased to have Professor Benedito Braga, or Ben Braga, with us, who has a long history with IWRA. He's served on the board of IWRA between 1986 and 2003, and indeed was the president of the association from 98 to 2000. But he's done many other very interesting things in his career, including, with our fellow association, the World Water Council, was the president of the council from 2012 to 2018. And he also chaired the International Steering Committee for the 6th, 7th, and 8th World Water Forums, I think in France, Korea, and Brazil. Has a Ph.D., and Ben, you can correct me on any of this stuff. Hopefully I have it right. You have a PhD from Stanford. You're a retired professor from the Civil and Environmental Engineering at the Escola Politecnica at the University of São Paulo. You have an Honorary Diplomate at the American Academy of Water Resources of Engineers. You've written over 200 papers and 25 books, and that's before we talk about your professional career and a number of things, and currently serving as the CEO of SABESP, the water utility in the state of São Paulo, which is the 3rd largest water utility in the world. So, Ben, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Callum, to be with you and all our dear community of IWRA members. I'm very happy to be with you today and exchange some of the history of this magnific association.
Given your history with us, I mean, we couldn't do this without you. I have to be honest. I mean, you have knowledge of the association that I think many of us have in the current secretariat and the current board have forgotten. So, so you became a member of IWRA, I think, or when did you become a member of IWRA, and what attracted you to the association?
Well, this was back in the early 80s. I had just finished my PhD in the late 70s, in 79. Then I came back and started teaching at University of São Paulo. And on those days, Vente Tchau was starting the association in Illinois. And, Vente Tchau was someone very bright engineer and wrote this handbook of hydrology that was the Bible of hydrologists on those days. And he came to Brazil in the early 80s to, teach some courses on systems engineering. And he had already the view that it was not only, the hydrology, the engineering, but you had to have a more comprehensive understanding of water resources. And I was very impressed, and I enjoyed it very much because in the late 60s, when I was at the School of Engineering, having my bachelor's degree in engineering, I was very much interested by computing, IT. In those days, it was the 1130 IBM. It was not a big, the /360 was the very large computer, but we had at the School of Engineering this, this machine that was able to do computations much faster than any of the machines we had. And then because of my interest in this, in IT, in the systems, I became very interested in what Vente Tchau was teaching. And he, through one of my professors, introduced me to the work of IWRA, et cetera, and then I became a member. It was directly from Vente Chao.
Vente Chao. What was he like as a person to talk to?
Oh, he was a very sweet person, very nice, and you know, it was like the the grandpa that would look after you, and very bright, very bright.
He's certainly a figure that's larger than life, I think, for us in many ways in the association.
Yeah, I enjoyed very much interacting with him, and there was something interesting also that he wanted that Brazil would host the World Water Congress. It would take place in 76 or 76, something like that. And it was everything arranged. And Brazil was under military rule on those days. And the military were very concerned with the construction of Itaipu, still today the largest hydropower plant in the world if you consider energy production. It's larger than Three Gorges. Three Gorges has more installed capacity, but Itaipu is still the largest energy producing in the world. And then this professor that introduced me to Vente Chao was a very dear professor of mine, and he was in charge of organizing this Congress in São Paulo. And he was approached by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs saying, "Professor, we are very sorry, but this event cannot take place in Brazil," because there was a lot of conflict between Argentina and Brazil on those days. Because Argentina was saying that we were held in the water that was supposed to go to them. And incidentally, Itaipu is a run-of-the-river power plant. It does not store any water. There is a lot of water in that place. But nevertheless, it was a very complex political issue. And he had to cancel this professor that was in charge of. And he was a good friend of mine, and I was at Stanford in those days, from 76 to 79. I was working on my Ph.D. And he visited me because he said, "I have to go personally to talk to Professor Vente Chao. I cannot write a letter to him or make a phone call." You know, there was no go-to meeting on those days. And then he went there and he explained to me what I explained to you, this very political issue. So back in the 70s, it was already a very complex process, this thing of water resources management, mainly transboundary.
Yes. Yeah, very complicated and very difficult. And but we were pleased that the Congress did eventually come to Brazil. So it has been there.
No, Mexico was very gentle, and they decided to host that Congress in Mexico City.
Mexico City, that's right. Yes, okay. But I didn't realize it was supposed to have been held in Brazil, so that's interesting.
Yes, it was.
So
I don't know if you can publish this, but
well, no. I mean, absolutely. It's interesting. It's very interesting. So you became a member, and then you decided to become an active member by joining the board, and you were on the board for a number of years, and eventually you ran for president. I mean, what motivated you to take on all that additional work? I mean, it's not
Well,
easy.
you know, I was approached by Azit Bezos. He was president before me, I guess, and he said, Ben, you've been so active in the association, etc., and why not running for president? I said, look, I don't feel like running. There was another candidate that I thought was more fit, and he said, no, I think you have a very good chance to become. You have the technical, scientific background, and also you have a good position in a research center at the University of São Paulo. I was directing a group that was starting the meteorological radar for a rainfall measurement and forecast. Flood forecast, and so he convinced me to put my candidacy forward, and eventually I was elected. So it was very good. I enjoyed a lot being involved, and I had, of course, the support of Azit, that was a very well recognized leader in the water sector, and yeah, this is how it happened.
And while you were president of IWRA, I mean, what's your best memory, or what are you most proud of your time as president of IWRA?
Well, I think I managed to get the interest of much more people around the world. I remember visiting Glenn Stout in Champaign and discussing new avenues for the association. Our Water International was much stronger. I gave a lot of efforts to get the journal a very good impact in the scientific community, and it really went very, very well under my presidency. Also, I reached more than 1,000 members. I think it was the largest ever number of members of IWRA.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, without the benefit of the internet, as you know, we have it today and everything. I mean, that's
yeah, no, it was. I don't know. We had something called BitNet. That was before the internet, but it was not much used. So you have to reach people by mail and regular mail, and they would respond back. And yeah, but it was. I'm very proud that under my presidency we reached more than 1,000 members.
I take my hat off to you, because we've only just reached that number again recently, like in 2020. So so it's I know how hard it is. Well done indeed. I guess, I mean, how have you seen the association? I mean, since you've known it for so long, I mean, how has it evolved, do you think? I mean, what is the biggest difference, I guess, from when you first joined IWRA to how it is today?
Well, I think that today we have explored, and I think this is thanks to you doing an excellent job of reaching out people and make them more active and interacting more, and also the quality of the journal continues very good, and having this more holistic view of water management. I appreciate very much what's happening these days.
Great.
This is my view.
Thank you. I mean, did your time with IWRA also help you in your career? I mean, outside of,
Absolutely. You know, the networking that IWRA gave to me, we had you know, symposia and interacting with a lot of researchers outside my local community, and this gave me opportunity to, you know, interact with other professors in different parts of the world and working together. For example, we had an excellent relation with people in Canada. Simonovich was through IWRA, Yevevich in Colorado through IWRA, and Billier in California, Los Angeles, you know, and then later on, people from UK in the area of climatology and hydrology. So there was a lot of opportunities that IWRA propitiated me to professionally was extremely important.
It's a great, I mean, even I see it's a great community of people, and I'm always amazed and humbled by how much people want to be involved. So it's I think I just from my own perspective, I would agree with you. I think it's a good opportunity. I guess I have a few other questions now, sort of more generally about the water sector and sort of your experience as an expert in the field. I mean, particularly, you know, how has the sector changed from when you were a university student to now? I mean, what are the biggest changes you've seen in the water sector?
Well, I think it was that the professional community started understanding that it was necessary to go beyond the communication among ourselves, improving the technologies, improving the policies for public interest, policies for water resources management, for sanitation services, etc. But it evolved in the last, let's say, 30, 40 years since I started, you know, in IWRA, etc. To the professionals understanding that it was necessary to go beyond the communication among ourselves and having a more amenable communication system for the politicians to see something of interest for them in this business. And this is the only way you can move forward. You can have the most interesting policy, you know, the most interesting technology to do this and that, but if you do not convince the decision makers, it's, I wouldn't say useless, but because one day it will come, but it's necessary. And I am a very optimistic person because I see today that even the lay person in the street, when you talk about water, they say, oh, this is a very important business. This is something important. Water security. Now with COVID-19, people need to have personal hygiene more frequently. And without water, you cannot do that, you know?
Yeah. People relate to it. Everybody relates to the subject.
Yes. So this is what I see in the how it evolved, and IWRA has a very important role in this process. Why I say that? Because we were members of the World Water Council back in the 90s, right? And in the old days of the council, it was all about politics only, you know? And IWRA came in to say, look, people, it's not just about politics. If you don't have substance to propose, you know, it's easy to say, oh, water is the most important thing in the world. You should not, you know, you should cooperate in transboundary. But people will say, how? And then I think IWRA was essential in participating in the board of the council in order to do a very good combination of substance and reaching out decision makers and politicians.
What do you think we could do better to sort of facilitate that discussion between, you know, the interface between science and policy, and it's sort of the two-way communication? I mean, how do you get politicians to explain their priorities to water, you know, hydrologists, but at the same time hydrologists sort of communicating back in a way that, I mean, how do we make that better?
Well, I think the World Water Congress is a good opportunity to do this matching. The World Water Forums are, you know, larger events. You know, in Brasilia, you were here. We had 100,000 people and blah, and the media. The World Water Congress can do this interaction between the you know, the decision maker side and the scientific side. And then I think it's necessary to have some communicator that can understand the interests of both groups and do this matching. So if in the next Congress we you know, start some sessions, special sessions, with all the red carpet, of course, because politicians like these kind of things, and you know, yes. You should have the the media and the social media and the important newspapers covering the event, etc. I think this is one way the association can do this approximation of the two groups. I think that comes up to my mind.
It's yeah. I mean, it's a good sort of segue. Also thinking about the next Congress and what we can do there. Sort of thinking to the next question, which is really, what do you think are the the challenges for the next 50 years. So IWRA has been around for 50 years now. So for the young and early career professionals who are coming into the organization, what are the challenges ahead, and what advice would you give them? You know, if you're setting yourself on a career path now, where should they be focusing their efforts, do you think?
The new professionals, yes. Well, I still think good engineering is fundamental. You need, of course, to have this professional that is able to communicate with the decision makers, but they have to have a solid background to know what is feasible, what is not feasible. They need to have a good, a good background also in economics and administration, because if you look only the engineer, he will say, well, the safest is this, doesn't matter how much it costs. So
right. Okay.
the professional needs to have this balance between these things, and should have some background also on social political matters, because this would give him with a very solid background, this would give him the vision of the whole thing, right? And of course, environment. But this goes without saying. Everybody is concerned about the environment. But what for the future is this professional, and I maybe IWRA could be the platform where they would discuss how to perfection the methodologies, the policies, etc. So this is how I see the future, much more in this social, economic, governance, economics, and engineering. Engineers have been beaten up by, a lot of people these days, but without them, there is no society. There's no air conditioning. There's no potable water. It's just to have a very solid knowledge on engineering, but with all these other components. And IWRA would provide a space for them to discuss the methodologies, etc.
The sort of cross-disciplinary integrated approach that we need to tackle
Absolutely.
these issues.
Yes.
Yeah, take people and communities with us and so on. I agree. Well, Ben, look, thank you so much. That's it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I could continue talking to you for a long time, but I think you're a busy man and you have other things to do. But
Okay.
I might just, I think we're hoping we will see you again in some future events with IWRA this year. We have some, I think, a webinar coming up, and we hope we may even see you in Daegu, assuming everything goes according to plan and we're there and this pandemic is a bit more under control.
Yes.
But anyway, look, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Looking very much forward to Daegu and with vaccines. And until then, hoping that everybody listening to or watching this conversation take good care of themselves. Take care, use masks when outside home, and hope to see everyone in Daegu, fortunately with vaccines, and if not, as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great.